City of Fayetteville is at a crossroads when it comes to housing and transportation. With parking shortages and rising housing demand, city leaders are now rethinking long-standing development rules. That's why some want to change how many parking spaces are required when new developments come in. 5 News reporter Lauren Spencer was at tonight's City Council meeting in Fayetteville, where a new proposal could have major implications for where and how people live and park.
If everyone does their fair share, then one development doesn't consume all the available on-street parking. They leave some for the next developer.
Ward 2 council member Mike Wiedeker says the city doesn't have enough parking and that current reductions are straining neighborhoods.
Off-campus student housing in particular is just one example. We love the university, but when you build a development and take a 35% reduction in your parking, that may be putting 250 cars on the street that need to be accommodated.
Right now, developers can take a 35% reduction in the amount of parking they provide. But through this new ordinance, it would be a tiered approach, increasing parking requirements for residential projects.
If you don't incorporate parking, you create second-class citizens. So think about it. You have to park a quarter mile from where you live. Well, in today's rain, how's that fair and equitable for you?
Those with the group Fayetteville Strong believe the changes could drive up costs for developers and make it even harder to build in a city still facing a housing crisis.
What you end up is massive parking lots around apartment complexes that aren't being utilized, which has a negative effect of increasing the building costs, which we then see in increased rent. Also, it has a negative environmental impact, which is increase in the amount of impervious surface in the city, which leads to water runoff problems.
Ultimately, the council passed the measure 6-2, meaning the Planning Commission will now play a role in evaluating a property and parking needs. In Fayetteville, covering news where you live, Lauren Spencer, 5 News.
Council decided not to take any action tonight on an ordinance that would require landlords to show all renters' fees and costs up front. The council tabled the issue until June to get more input from landlords and renters. Dozens of Fort Smith families being forced to find a new place to live. A long-time agreement between the apartment complex and the Department of Housing and Urban Development is expiring at the end of next month. Boardwalk and College Terrace apartments have been under that moderate rehab program for decades. Over the last 30 years, though, HUD has stopped funding that program with the intention of phasing it out. Fort Smith Housing Authority says with the contract expiring, they've been working on helping the families find a new place to live.
We are able to transition the 55 families that are there at Boardwalk, transition them to the tenant-based housing choice voucher program, where they can go out and choose, where they want to live, what landlord they want to rent from.
Through the voucher program, the people will pay the same amount in their new home that they do right now. New tonight, a former educator in the Fayetteville and Springdale school districts was sentenced to 17 years in prison today. A judge revoked Mark Osterly's probation for being present on a school campus as a level 3 sex offender. Comes less than a month after Osterly got a separate prison sentence in Benton County for failing to comply with sex offender registration laws. He was originally convicted of sexually assaulting a student while he worked at the Springdale school district. Sequoyah County judge says triple murder suspect Stacy Drake will stand trial. The decision comes after 2 days of a pretrial hearing in Sallisaw. Prosecutors called dozens of witnesses to the stand to establish there is enough evidence for Drake to stand trial. Prosecutors say he first killed Philip Emerson in Canadian County, Oklahoma, then went to LaFerry's Propane in Sequoyah County, where he's accused of murdering Tara Underwood and Taylor Sharp. Underwood's sister, Tia Barnett, says it has not been easy seeing the man accused of murdering their loved one.
Our 6 kids now without their parents, Taylor and Tara, and we deserve that justice. I feel like we are getting somewhere, and the witnesses have identified him as the suspect in the courtroom with us. So I feel like that's a small win for what we're going through right now.
Drake's next court date, by the way, is set for July 7th. New tonight, Oklahoma's governor vetoing a bill that would have removed a federal funding requirement for an OSBI office that investigates cases involving missing and murdered Indigenous persons. The bill would have amended Ida's law, that bipartisan measure passed 3 years ago, and created a dedicated office within the OSBI to handle cases. However, the law originally required the office to be funded through federal dollars, which the OSBI was not able to secure. Now, Governor Kevin Stitt released this statement announcing the veto, saying he supports efforts to solve the cases, but could not sign legislation that singled out victims solely on their race. It's unclear if lawmakers will try to override the governor's veto. OSBI says it will continue to work on the cases at its current staffing level. Governor Stitt did sign a bill today removing cell phones from classrooms into law today. Starting this fall, the law will require public school districts to limit student cell phone usage from the start of class to the end of the day. The law only covers the upcoming school year. After that, districts will be able to adjust cell phone policies as they see fit. University of Arkansas getting $1 million this week to help expand electronics education programs there. The Arkansas Department of Higher Ed awarded the money to the U of A. Funding will help develop both credit and non-credit courses related to workforce needs in the semiconductor industry.
Turns out that there's a number of companies in the state of Arkansas that do this, some in Little Rock, some in Northwest Arkansas, that are in either fabrication or in the circuit design area or whatever. And so this is an opportunity to serve existing industry in the state, but also help attract new industries to the state of Arkansas.